Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. So today, a huge request, as it's the topic pretty much of maybe Instagram and people in the health and fitness, is peptides. Now, I get a lot of questions about this, so I've just got an expert on here to answer all your questions, all the questions I've been getting, but I want to give you a roadmap of what peptides are, how to use them, the best ones, precautions, where to get them, what to be careful of. Okay, so I'm going to welcome Dean Henry to the call today. How are you, Dean?
Yeah, I'm good, Robert. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good stuff, buddy. Good stuff. You're in Spain right now, yeah?
I am, yes, in Ibiza. Sun is shining.
You know, Bifa, past the party season, right? It's the winter now, so.
I wouldn't know. I'm too old for that.
But no, Dean. So run us through. Like, obviously, you're an expert in peptides. Firstly, give us a little bit of context of how you got into it and what brought it about. Because I know you've done functional medicine, right? So how did it come about? Peptides. Have you always been into that?
Yeah, I think, I started sort of researching peptides in 2015.
Right.
I came across a peptide called epithalon or epitalon, which is known to reverse the telomere length, so basically reverse aging at a cellular level. So once I heard that on a podcast back in 2014, I thought I want to find out more about this. And that's where it really started. And then because of I used to play football at a decent level. I used to be a decent level sprinter and I had a lot of injuries. And there's a few sort of things that I had in the body that, conventional medicine was struggling with. And that's why I sort of steered to functional medicine. And then, just natural progression really was peptides. And, from self-experimentation and research, just ended up being, 10 years of my life looking at peptides.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And what is peptides? Obviously, because some people think it's like a steroid, some people think it's not. Like in a nutshell, like what is it in the most simple terms you can explain it?
Yeah, I think I prefer simple terms. So that I always, when I have these conversations, I always make it very clear that I'm not a medical professional. I have no scientific background. I mean, I do train doctors and clinicians now because by default I have 10 years of knowledge and protocols, but I'm not medically trained. So when I give this analogy, I'm not dumbing it down for anybody apart from myself, but normally it helps people to understand it better. So I'll just give you these simultaneous analogies. So you have, so first of all, peptides are just two chains of amino acids chained together, right? So once one amino acid attaches to another amino acid, it turns into a peptide. These have been around for billions of years, long before we were. You find them in food, animals, and of course in the human body. What we're going to be speaking about today is therapeutic peptides. That's the topic of interest. Now, these are signaling molecules. So when you take these peptides, they go into the body and they attach themselves to receptor proteins. Or they attach themselves to go inside these cells. Now, receptor proteins are always called a doorbell. So the peptide is the stranger, rings the doorbell, runs away, creates activity inside the house, dog barking, kids running around, and that activity is internal or endogenous optimization. So it's creating optimization for the target area. The reason why I quite like that analogy is for two reasons. Number one, when it rings the doorbell and runs away, this means it's not going to be like steroids or growth hormone or TRT or whatever. The analogy of that would be the stranger rings a doorbell, you open the door and let the stranger in because you're letting a synthetic version of the hormone into the body. And this is why we see potentially more side effects with steroids and TRT and hormones than we do with peptides, because peptides just stimulating what's already there. So all these sequences of amino acid chains, all these amino acids that we work with, no matter what the sequence is, all these amino acids are already in the body. That's the core 20 amino acids. It's just the sequence and how they've been modified changes what receptors they target and the outcome.
Right. Yeah, that's perfectly explained. That makes perfect sense. So your body's already actually creating it, but you're obviously topping it up and you're linking it with other things to then receptors to take it on and get more benefit from.
Exactly. And we could get really into the science, so I'm going to try not to. But you know, things like the really popular peptides, and we can go through each peptides that are popular. But BPC 157, that's a 15-chain amino acid that's isolated in the gut already, and that 15 amino acid chain sequence is exactly how we take the BPC. If we look at something like I don't know, Cmax, for example, which is really good for cognitive performance, and that's an intranasal peptide. Now, that's a 7-chain amino acid, but only 4 of them are an extract from the hormone that we're using that's already inside the body. And then they've added another 3 to make it more stable, and so it breaks through the blood-brain barrier. So the modification is always for a better outcome.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense. We'll dive into a few just at the end. I've got a few questions. These are questions for me actually as well. I'm sure other people ask these questions. Why have Big Pharma not sort of got involved in this then and created their own sort of brand and sort of took over the market?
I've got a theory, so I just obviously floating around this for a long time. So I think first and foremost that they have, because you have the GLP-1s, Ozempic, which was semaglutide. I worked with semaglutide a long time ago before they adapted it. Now, when we talk about modification, I'm going to try not to go off with a tangent here, but when we talk about modification, the peptides, or the research peptides you work with, have been modified so they work better, so they're more stable, so they they're more optimized. So the argument is when the pharmaceutical industry got hold of semaglutide and modified it with a fatty acid to extend the half-life, that was their version of modifying a peptide to make it more effective. My opinion, wrongly or rightly, is that they commercialized it to make they modified it to make it more commercial, because suddenly we're now not looking at doing one injection a day, because remember, when we said it's ringing the doorbell and running away, that means it doesn't stay in the body for very long, which means it's really effectively bypassing the liver and kidneys, so we don't see the side effects. Once you start extending the half-life of a product to the extent of 5 and 6 days rather than a few hours, this is when we start seeing a lot of side effects and receptor desensitization. So this is like keeping your finger on the doorbell till the battery runs out and then get another one, which means you need to keep increasing the dose. So in theory, they have got involved in certain peptides. The mainstream research peptides, if you like BPC 157 or the thymosin beta 4, TB500, these are really healing peptides. They're preventative, so they're found in the body already. So I mean, I'm not a pharmaceutical person, but I don't know how you can patent something like that if it's already found in the body. Obviously, they can add things to it, but then of course, then it's going to be away from its natural sequence, and then it's going to probably have more chance of causing side effects. So there's two potential things here. Number one is that it's probably very difficult to patent and commercialize, and number two, it can prevent people from getting sick.
And look, again, it's controversial, and we all know Big Pharma, do they cure things or just paper over cracks and give you medicine? That's one of the things, right? That's what I always say. It's like,
well, you could go into ChatGPT and said, how many diseases have pharmaceutical companies cured? And the answer is zero.
Yeah. Zero, exactly. Look, Big Pharma are there to, I don't want to go off on a tangent, Big Pharma are there to manage your decline, right? And they're there to manage your decline and the symptoms that you have, which then the pharmaceuticals that they give you other symptoms that you then have to cure as well. So that makes total sense. But I just thought, wow, I thought they'd jump on it and say, oh, we've got this B514, T500, make some other name of it and just sort of like really sort of hammer it to the market. But obviously they haven't. But
there are more, I'd probably say one a year of peptides that I've worked with over the last 10 years, probably actually one every 2 years. There's one that's being regulated or, taken on by the FDA or pharmaceutical companies, like SS31, a mitochondria-derived peptides, which is amazing for immunology. They found, an objective for that for a disease, so they can obviously done some human studies, and that's the most recent one. So there are the odd few that are sort of creeping through, but I work with over 100 peptides, and I think there's about 3 that have been approved or used in the pharmaceutical industry.
What I was going to ask you, let's say the normal guy wants to take these top 3, the mainstream ones, right, where you just mentioned. Like, these are the most who everyone's wanted to take, and you see it all online. I done a reel on it the other day, and it got like 150,000 views. It's very basic, and I got loads of. I was like, Jesus Christ! Like, I'm not an expert in this, but everyone wants to take them. But you can just see from people they're not even going to the gym, they're not eating good, not sleeping well, but they think that's going to paper over the cracks because, as you know, right, in today's age, people just want a shortcut and they want to do less work. Like, what state do you have to be in for these to actually, for you to fully optimize the peptide? Like, have you seen like people getting better results than other people?
Yeah, it's extremely varied. I mean, there's so much biological individuality going on with peptides because it's targeting such a natural environment to create a natural outcome that the individual nature of these is so variable. But of course, healthy lifestyle, going to the gym, eating well, getting sunshine, peptides just work better. We're trying to sort of create some sort of anti-aging effect here ultimately, or prevention, and that's. And it's no surprise that if I give a 25-year-old BPC that's got tennis elbow, they recover in 3 days. I'll give it to someone my age, it takes 3 months because they're younger and healthier, right? So they're just more optimized. So the more optimized your lifestyle, and arguably the younger you are, then the better the peptides are going to work.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Everyone should think that's common knowledge, but it doesn't seem to be quite common, right?
Definitely not.
Yeah, but that makes sense. And just on that, actually, because I know athletes, because this is not like illegal, is it? Athletes are taking them to get over injuries faster. Is that the case, or is that coming up in their sort of tests and things? Are they allowed to take them?
Well, there's two answers to that question. There was two questions in one there. It was very clever.
Go
So,
on.
number one, are they allowed to take them? Many they're not. Okay, so there's more coming on the WADA list now. Can they be detected? Well, I just explained how quickly they leave the body. They're already there, right? So it's endogenous. They're in and out. So to find it, you can't test. As far as my knowledge, you can't test for peptides in the body, as such. So I'm not encouraging it or endorsing it. I'm just saying this is what I see.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously the answer to that is if you're a UFC fighter or a boxer and you can take something for 5 weeks, but your fight's not till 16 weeks. I mean, why wouldn't you do it, right? If it's not getting tested, unless you're getting tested every. What's the half life on those peptides? 1 day, is it, or half?
Not even that. Most of them are less than that. Yeah, it's very, very short. Some. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, use a few hours. Most of them. Some are a bit longer. You know, testosterone is probably a bit longer because that's got a fatty acid to extend the half life. But no, they're very. Like I said, it rings a doorbell, runs away, and yeah, I was trying to think of a way to diplomatically articulate it. But there's many people in many sport professions that I work with that use peptides.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you? And again, if your body's naturally already creating it, then I don't see the issue, right? So
for me, you know, it's just a misunderstanding. You know, it's like a lot of the financial institutions, the banking, that say, oh, you know, you're selling steroids, we can't take your payment. It's so different and it's quite frustrating. And I guess, you know, I think there was a story in an American football team, I think 10 years ago, all the team were taking BPC during the training and they was able to train harder because they were recovering so quickly. So then it got banned. They said, well, they're performing better than everyone else because they train so hard. So, yeah.
I mean, you can see that makes sense, can't you? But if it's a level playing field and everyone can do it, then why not?
Yeah, so that means I eat more protein than the other guy. So
Correct. Yeah, I'm sleeping for 9 hours instead of 7.
Exactly.
But that makes sense. Okay, so why is this not FDA approved then?
I think, you know, for the reasons we discussed, I just look, some of them are, and there's more and more coming through. So SS31 now is the mitochondrial-derived peptide. I believe thymosin alpha-1 for immunology is in certain jurisdictions, maybe not FDA. Tetomrelin, you know, that was approved for men with HIV that were carrying too much belly fat. So They took tetomrelin, which is a growth hormone secretagogue, so you get all the benefits of building muscle, burning fat, sleeping, energy, but it targets the belly fat, so it's quite a good way to get a little bit more defined around the abdominal area, if that is your thing, which is most people.
Yeah.
So that's what it was created for. So that's regulated for purpose. But all the others, it's, you know, all this human study that would need to happen for it to be, or supposedly human studies for it to happen, to be approved. And then what's the indications? What are they trying to find? That BPC helps you recover from injuries more quickly, or BPC prevents you from getting injuries. It's very rare that you see products approved for human studies that are helping with prevention.
Yes. And that goes back to the root cause of, do the governments and big pharma want healthy people, right? Who knows? That's another conversation for another day. If you're not sick, you're not profitable, right?
No. I mean, it just, the numbers don't stack up, do they? So, but yeah, you know, as I say, more and more coming through for different indications. But, you know, for help, so really, I mean, my job is, I do see a lot of sick people, but really, being a non-medical person, my job is just to work with healthy people to make them healthier, or to prevent, you know, and to help with longevity. That's really where I stand in my position of, you know, peptide therapy.
That's good. That's fun, right? You're actually working with people that are already motivated. They all want to perform better, and they want to get to the next level. So that's good fun.
Yeah.
What's your biggest fear about peptides? Like, what in the future? Where do you see it going? Like, do you see there's just being created, or do you see them getting banned, or how do you see it? Do you think it's just the start of something?
It's a good question. I think that 10 years ago, when I first started looking at, actually probably 6 years ago when I started to commercialize peptides, I was always worried about what's happening next. You know, they're going to get stopped, the pharmaceutical industry. But, you know, you have to look at the broader picture. They're just amino acids. How we choose to take them, whether it's orally or injectable, some jurisdictions, so as soon as you inject it, it's no longer a supplement. Okay, but there's a lot of arguments for and against that. The pharmaceutical industries will clamp down. Well, they can only clamp down on what they're regulating. So You know, things like Ozempic and Mounjaro, when it was in its original form, we were selling it. We don't sell it now because the pharmaceutical industries don't like us selling it. Fine. There's always more peptides. So whatever they're doing, there's some very clever people, much more clever than me, scientists that are moving around these amino acid sequence for different outcomes. And these are just going to keep coming. More and more people are interested in peptides. More finance people are investing into the labs behind peptides to discover more. And this is something in the last sort of 6 months where I've really tried to understand more, because I've been talking at this level about peptides therapy, helped hundreds, if not thousands of people. Now I'm trying to get more into the science of, well, what else can we do with this? It's amazing.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So just recapping on that. So it kind of feels like, when AI first come out, and then it's just like blown up over the last 3, 4, 5 years, isn't it? And everyone's like, now you can do this, now you can do this automated. It sounds like that's what's going to happen with the peptides. Wow, you can fix this. Well, your headaches, fix this. Blood pressure, injuries, longevity, recovery, cardiovascular, so you can run quicker, recover, inhale more oxygen. It's just going to get out of control, isn't it?
It is. Well, I tell you, the GLP-1s are a great example of what you just said, actually. So we had Ozempic, which was a GLP-1. Then we had Mounjaro, which is a GLP-1 and a GIP, so 2 agonists. Now we've got retatrutide, which everybody loves. That's got glucagon. What's interesting is, and I know there's a 4, 5, and 6 coming, and this is all for longevity and building muscle and burning fat. And what tends to be happening is now we're at the 3rd agonist. That seems to be mitigating the side effects of the first 2 agonists. So where, the glucose-dependent peptide, it's like when a diabetic takes insulin. So there's an insulin spike. If the insulin's too high and it brings the glucose down too low, then a diabetic would take a sugar pill. So the glucagon in retatrutide is almost mechanically acting like a sugar pill. So it's balancing your glucose variability, which is amazing for longevity, which is why I take it. I don't take it for weight loss. I microdose it, so it's just good for energy, brain fog, and focus, and maybe get a little
Mitochondria.
Exactly. And then they're going to add. I think the next one's adding IGF-1. Then it's a myostatin inhibitor. And then Clotho, which is anti-aging and cognitive performance. So there's going to be a 6th agonist soon, which for longevity is amazing.
Wow. Do you reckon people like Brian Johnson are going to be living to 110 then?
I think he needs to get in the sun.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
But I hope he does.
Needs to get out some salt water and get in the sun, doesn't he?
Yeah, I feel like he's missing some basics. But hey, who am I to argue with Brian Johnson?
Yeah, but that makes perfect sense. You explain that tremendously well. Let's just go into a few just like questions that pop up, like just stuff like how to know where to buy it, right? This is obviously the big one, right? Because with anything you're taking, the quality over quantity is always the most important thing, right? And I mean, run us through where you've obviously got your own. Is it a lab or do you just do it online, right? Explain to us that and how is it like improved?
Okay, yeah, all of the above. So I sit on the scientific advisory board of a lab in the USA. That's going to be the first peptide-only company that's going to be listed on the stock exchange. So, we've got a good source there. It's FDA-certified lab, CGMP certified, and the peptides are actually made in the US. So that's a good source. We're also sort of connected to a peptide lab in Europe, in Lithuania, and again CGMP certified, and we know that the peptides are good from there. They're not imported from the Far East, and we know that. I'm not saying all peptides are bad from the Far East. I just say we just got more control and regulation.
I get it. Yeah.
So we have Fastidious Labs in the US, we have UAE Peptides Research in the Middle East and Asia, and then we have DN Lab, or also now known as Bionic Lab, in the Europe and the UK. So that's a very strong source because I know what goes into them. I know the products, and my family uses them, my mum uses them, even my daughter when she was training. So we all use these peptides, right? Beyond that, I'm not saying we're the only people you can buy peptides from. I think first and foremost, when you go online to buy a peptide, I mean, I can see a vial now just from years and just know that it's where it comes from. But, to the untrained eye, you're going to see a vial. It's going to say for research purposes only. Fine, it has to legally. Not for human use. It says not for human use, go to another website. Okay, that just the liability's gone, right? So that's quite scary. There's a trick question you can ask suppliers, and it's does your peptides have any toxins in it? 9 times out of 10 they will say to you, no, my peptide's got 99.9% purity, or 90% purity, or 98. They didn't answer the question because purity doesn't identify toxin exposure. It's a completely different test. So I've tested so many people and they've said, yeah, our purity is really high. So okay, I'm going to go somewhere else. So everyone will talk about their purity. That doesn't indicate if it's got toxins, and it's got endotoxins is a problem, right?
Right. So what you're saying, they need to say it's 100% pure.
No, they can be 98% pure. It's just the purity of the peptides, just how much peptides in there. That 0.2% or whatever can just be floating aminos. It's fine. But it's HPLC testing. It's when you see these graphs, they show if there's something else in there to be concerned about. And then you might want to dig a bit deeper if there's too many spikes. Okay, this has got some sort of toxic exposure. Now we need to see some heavy metals tests or something. But the purity, which everybody sells from, is important, but it doesn't talk about toxic exposure.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And I always see people getting like rashes around their jab site. And that is that normal? Is that just because they're doing it in the same place? Run me through that. People getting sort of rashes and stuff.
So there's two key peptides that can start this reaction, or sometimes it's a histamine reaction and sometimes it's just an imbalance on the pH on the skin. So GHKCU copper peptide is the one everyone's taking for vanity. So because that stimulates your collagen production, is really good for skin and nails and tendons. But that's got the copper in it. So suddenly we're not talking about a pure peptide compound. We're talking about a peptide compound with a copper element to it. Now that copper element's pH level is very different to the skin or what the body recognises at the insertion point. So straight away there's irritation there, and then people are just coming up in all rashes and all sorts because of the copper element. Don't really see that of any other peptides as such, but lots of people inject in the front because they see it on TV, or you're seeing diabetics do that with insulin, which is also a peptide, by the way, and they're doing this. And there's a lot of noise at the front, lots of veins and bruising as possible. So I always advise people to do it around the love handles or at the top of the front thigh, because it's just generally for most people there's a little bit more fat there, isn't it? And so they can do that. And then some people are just very sensitive. You know, it's almost like just getting stung or something. They put a pin in there and suddenly they just get a reaction. And, the best way to mitigate that is just to move everything around, go to alternate sites, alternate locations, try and do each injection inch away from the last one, and just keep moving things around. Copper, GHKCU being the only one that doesn't really, that's difficult not to. Basically, it's no pain, no gain with GHKCU unless you come in, unless you have a sort of histamine response. CJC1295 seems to activate mast cells for a lot of people, so that one can cause histamine reactions. So people need to be careful with that one. That's just a GHRH, so you're better off just using testosterone without going into the science too much. CJC1295 GHRH is a 29-chain amino acid. The sequence is found in the body, but it's modified. The GHRH testosterone, GHRH in the body is 44 chains of amino acids. Testosterone is exactly the same. So it does it. So the body completely recognises it. It's just got a little modification on it to make the half-life and make it more stable. So I would always choose testosterone, even though CJC is doing the rounds on Instagram and social media.
Yeah. No, it's true. And do you have to inject these subcutaneously, meaning for the listeners outside of the muscle, or can you put them intramuscular in the side of your quads? So easy for intramuscular because it's right there, right? Or does it have to be subcutaneous out the muscle?
It depends on the objective and the peptide. So most of the peptides, if we're talking about a growth hormone secretagogue like we just were, then you wouldn't want to put that in your muscle really, because you want that to systemically go around the body into the bloodstream like you would insulin. But if you have a localized injury, now I don't recommend people do this, but if you have a localized injury, then of course putting BPC, which can target local injuries and soft and connective tissue, then injecting that into the muscle would make sense if that's the muscle you want to focus on. The same as TB500, even thymosin beta-4, but that's more of a broad spectrum healing peptide. I had BPC injected into my elbow from playing too much paddle. So they injected.
Explain it, yeah. Explain where. Like, where would you inject that if you had an injury?
Well, it was in the tendon, but this was all done under ultrasound. So it was done by a professional. I came along with my BPC and I said, stick that in me. So, you put the ultrasound in, there's a very long needle and it went into the muscle to make sure it stays in the muscle, and then he injected it. We actually injected it with some collagen and some exosomes and stem cells. But, you could almost see everything taken under the ultrasound and healing quickly. So, in short, and I digress a lot, in short is that subcutaneous is better, even if you're trying to heal the muscles, because if you're doing this yourself, then it's just safer. There's less chance of making a mistake. If you're going to go intramuscular or into your joints, then I would work with a professional to do that for you under ultrasound.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I was just looking at my elbow. I was like, if I had an arrow problem, I had absolutely no chance in knowing where to put a needle on there, would you? Like if your knee or something like that.
It went in that area there, so it was just in there. So it was not nice, but
yeah,
it did the job.
But that's good. That's good for everyone to sort of know. And last little bit, cycles. people cycle on and off? Run me through a few sort of just normal protocols like people should do to get the full benefit.
Yeah, sure. So generally, for most peptides, probably 80% of peptides I work with, there'll be 6-week cycles, 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. Because of the individual nature to peptides, what I tend to do when I'm working with people is ask them to email me back after 4 weeks just to tell me how they're getting on. There's a number of reasons for that. Number one is the peptide's working for them. Remember, it's such a natural thing. We might be focusing on the wrong target area. Number two, are they able to inject themselves as much as what they said they would? Because people get excited. I want 6 peptides. I said, well, probably don't work with that many. That means you've got to inject yourself twice a day some days, 6 times a day another day. It's too much. But some people just don't listen, right? So they just want to take loads of peptides. I say, well, email me back in 4 weeks and let me know how that's gone for you. And more often than not, I said, I forgot to do it that day and I didn't do it this day. I said, but that's the point, because it sounds good in theory, but having to put a needle in yourself every day or twice a day or even 4 times a day, if you order that many peptides, it comes a bit tedious. And to get the best effect from peptides, you need to maintain consistency to get the compounded effect over time. So generally it's 6-week cycles, 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. This is very safe. 5 days on, 2 days off in those cycles. So what we're trying to do is avoid receptor desensitization. At the Peptide University, where they're asking me to do master classes there for their doctors and clinicians, when I look at their protocols, they're much heavier, and they often say to me, why are you? Why is your peptides doing? Not the Peptide University, but some doctors I train. I said, look, we've seen these, and you can run these for 6 months, no problem. I said, yeah, but over the 6 to 10 years, I've seen optimal outcomes with no side effects. So why would I adjust it? And I said, well, you might get better outcomes. I said, yeah, but I might get side effects. I'll leave that to the research, right? But I'm happy with this. If someone's done the peptide protocol before and they felt really good, but they didn't quite hit their target, then I will push it to 3 months. So a 12-week protocol, but then they must take 6 weeks off. But again, that's never anybody's first cycle, and that's based on the feedback from the first cycle.
Yeah. And is that more on the injury ones or the longevity peptides for the 12-week cycles?
Good question. It's more for the injury one.
Yeah.
And also more for body composition, right? So, the growth hormones, even though they're for health and longevity, all everyone really wants is the muscles and the fat
Is that
burning.
the GLP, do you mean?
No, the growth hormone, so testosterone, ipamorelin, CJC, the one that's stimulating your own endogenous growth hormone.
Right, perfect. Okay, that's wonderful. I mean, you've really mapped this out perfectly. Let's just go your top. I know this could be subjective, your taste and your goals, but your top 3 peptides that you see have got the most results. Doesn't matter if it's injury, longevity, muscle, fat loss. Just what top 3 do you feel, wow, these are actually the real deal?
Okay, I'm going to cheat a little bit. So, if you don't mind. So, the growth hormone secretagogues, it's actually 2 peptides taken together. So, I'm going to class that as one. So, that's testosterone and ipamorelin. So, this really, they target 2 different slightly receptors. I won't go into the science too much, but this gives you a more complete endogenous growth hormone response. So taking these 2 together, rather than just taking a GHRP and a GHRH, take them in combination at the same time, you get optimal outcome. So for burning fat, building muscle, and sleep, actually, I noticed I sleep so heavy. Really, really good.
That sounds. Sorry to cut you. That sounds too good to be true.
What part of it?
Like building more muscle, losing fat, sleeping better. That's what every man's like trying to gain, right? But obviously, by the way, guys, it's not going to work if you're not eating good and training, right? This is in theory, Dean. What would you say? Like, if I'm training, eating good, do you think this will add 20%, 15%, 10% to my outcome?
I mean, for me, like you, I've been around the gym all my life, right? So I've trained. My dad was a professional bodybuilder. My uncle was Mr. Universe. It's all been in my family, right? So, knowing how to train and taking a growth hormone secretagogue, you get good results. I mean, I have to say, I'm 50 this year, and muscle doesn't grow as like it used to. I always thought that was a myth. It's definitely not. It's hard work. But I after 3 weeks on CJC ipamorelin and training regularly, the results are very good. I would say, another additional 20%. And you have to remember, it's optimizing our own endogenous growth hormone. Our growth hormone is optimized when it's like 21. So 21 to 25. After 25, it's dropping each year. So all we're doing is increasing our own endogenous growth hormone to be like what we was younger. And of course, it was easier to grow muscle and burn fat. Women that I speak to about growth hormone secretagogues in their 40s, am I going to get really muscly? I'm like, probably not. I said, you've probably got more muscly in your 20s than what you would in your 40s, but it's not going to magically happen if you're not lifting weights and eating loads of protein, right?
Yeah. That's a big question from the women, that one, isn't it? For you, I bet.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic. I'm probably going to get that myself. Number 1, number 2. Yeah.
Number two has to be, it's sitting on my desk right now. Number two has to be CMAX. That's it. So this is stimulating the neuroreceptors to help with brain fog, cognitive function, and help with neurodegeneration. And you take it as a protocol. It's a Russian-derived peptide, and you take 2 sprays in the morning, and then you take this 5 days on, 2 days off for 4 weeks. And this is going to help you, well, prevent all the things that I've just said, but give you better cognitive energy and performance. And people take it when they need it, because the great thing about this, even though it's, you have to reiterate, this is not a stimulant. It's not like caffeine. It's working with your natural receptors to perform more optimally, so you don't get this spike up and down, but you do feel more focused almost immediately as you take it.
Really, that's insane, isn't it? That's crazy. And do you cycle that on and off, Dean, that one?
Yeah, I mean, the original cycles that I used to look at, you would only take it 4 times a year, but for myself, I'm taking 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off, ongoing.
That's superb. Excellent. Everyone needs a bit of cognitive function, right?
Sure.
Third one.
And then finally, BPC 157.
That's the daddy online, and everyone, the longevity, the collagen building, the gut health.
Yeah, the cell migration, blood, and it's overlooked for the benefits on the heart. It's building new blood vessels and cell migration.
Yeah, exactly.
Taking BPC for the vascular system is amazing. So, BPC is, even though it's very popular, people still don't understand all the benefits to it. So cycling BPC 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off, I think is great for longevity. And of course, being able to train harder because you recover quickly. And if it's for injuries, then there's a different dosage or a different protocol. But for injury recovery, especially for these 20-year-olds, it's so annoying. You see them recover so quickly. But for the rest of us, it takes about 6 weeks.
Yeah, I've noticed even now, like, God, my hips are made of wood these days. But that's superb. And would you do all 3 of these together then, Dean? That's your stack. You got your muscle building, your fat burning, cognitive function. You got your longevity. That sounds like the perfect man's health and performance stack, right?
Exactly what I'm taking at the moment. Yeah.
Is that what you're doing? Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Last of all, probably everyone's going to take this, right? So, what's the doses on these 3, and then we'll sort of finish off.
Yeah, I think the dosages. I'd just say this is a guideline dosage. So for the CMAX, the 2 sprays are around about 85 mcg a spray. So we're looking at 170 mcg in the morning, so 1 spray up each nostril. You can do more if you feel you need it during the day. There's no real down. I mean, as long as you're not silly, of course, right?
Before a meeting or something.
Exactly. Yeah, me spraying stuff in your beef, I do get some strange things. So you have the CMAX. For maintenance of BPC 157 would be 250 mcg. So a quarter of a milligram, morning and evening. So half a milligram a day, Monday to Friday is easy that way. 5 days on, 2 days off for 6 weeks. Yeah. CJC ipamorelin or ipamorelin, GHRH and GHRP. Again, that's morning, evening, 5 days on, 2 days off. This particular peptide, despite what some people say, is it's only the growth hormone secretagogues that I can think of that you need to take away from food. So because of the insulin will affect the growth hormone secreting. So you take that you take 60 to 90. So take 1 in the morning when you wake up, and then hour and a half after food and before bed, and that's 5 days on, 2 days off. The dosages vary, but if we spoke about CJC, it's like 125 mcg, and the ipamorelin 250 mcg. If it was tesamorelin, it would be 1 milligram and 250 mcg ipamorelin.
Beautiful. That's amazing. I'm probably going to get those 3 myself, to be honest. Add it to the list. So how can people get this then? Obviously, you've got your own setup, Dean. If people are in Dubai or people are in Europe, I know the website, but what's the website that people can go onto it? Is it active? Is everything available on there?
Everything's available. I mean, the peptide sector over the last 6 months compared to what I've been doing, it's just exploded. So we're constantly increasing stock. So if it's out of stock, it will be in stock very soon. Everything is selling quickly. So you have UAEpeptidesresearch.com for the UAE in Asia. We have dnlabresearch.com for UK, Europe, and those regions. And then we have a new site that's launching on the 1st December called bioniclabs.com. And that will also have the same peptides, but all in the pen form.
No, so you have them pens that we spoke about before the call. So it'll be a lot easier. People can get it. They can top it up. It's a lot more user-friendly, isn't it?
Absolutely. So much. I mean, I was working with these vials for 10 years and suddenly the pens come out, and that's thanks to the pharmaceutical industry, right, for launching Ozempic and Mounjaro and everyone. And actually I believe that's why peptides exploded, because there was always a stigma about injecting yourself. That's why it would never happen. Suddenly you got all these people just inject themselves because they want to get skinny.
Yeah, I know. And usability it needs to be a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
But no, perfect. No, I really appreciate it, Dean. Really unlocking what peptides is, and you've pretty much explained it perfectly, better than anyone I've spoke to, actually. So no, I really appreciate that. You have an Instagram account as well, right? What's your Instagram? Because I know you speak quite a lot of sense on there.
Maybe subjective, but dean.e.henry at dean.e.henry.
Beautiful. I'm actually, if you don't mind, I'm actually going to put the website in the show notes of the podcast, if you don't mind. And then
Yeah, please.
yeah, get it on there. But no, superb. I really appreciate it, Dean. And yeah, again, I'm going to be on your website. I'm probably going to have a look at those three. But I'll chat to you after this quickly.
We'll have a chat. Thank you, Rob. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed that.
Reach out to Dean if you've got any other questions. And you can actually, I believe, book a call with Dean if you want to go over something more personalized for yourself, and obviously reach out to him. But again, cheers, guys.